Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted, as always, to be joined by Gregory Doll. We are in post-fight review mode. It is Sunday afternoon, the day after Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk fought for a second time, with Alexander Usyk being victorious via unanimous decision this time. Greg, good to be joined by you. It's always a bit exhausting when you're at the end of a big fight week and when it's the last big fight week of the year as well. So I don't know about you, but I've had a couple of coffees this morning, but we're ready to go once again, one final time in 2024. Give us your thoughts on what we saw, Greg. Unanimous victory for Usyk. Last night, some people saying it was controversial, some people not. What did you think of the fight in general?
Yeah, great to be joined by you as always, Elliot. Elliot, it was a strange fight. I don't like to sit in the fence and say it was a little bit of what you like, but some of the rounds they were difficult to score because a lot of the rounds for me, I think some of them were judged based on a big scoring shot, and I don't think you should judge around that way. Because I don't know about you, but I looked at AJ's card last night that the zone were putting out. I didn't really agree with his early rounds judgment, but to answer your question overall, it was a lot more. I think Fury tried to be too tactical instead of do the basics properly. That's easy for me to say when you're in against one of the greatest pound for pound fighters of all time, but I think that kind of ruined the fight a little bit, Elliot. I think if he was a bit more stuck to the basics and thought, I'm a big guy here, I need to do things that a big guy would do, I think we could have seen a different, potentially a bit more exciting fight. So slightly underwhelmed, but two of the best heavyweights in the division going at it, so we can't be too greedy.
Yeah, no, of course. Maybe it wasn't the spectacle, didn't have the drama of the first fight back in May, but still a very watchable fight. We'll move on to the scorecards, Greg. It's always really interesting when all three judges have it exactly the same. Um, Obviously, there was a bit of an outburst from Frank Warren after the fight with various outlets. You understand emotions kind of running high. He's kind of got a deep relationship with Tyson
Yep.
Fury. However, personally, I don't think he had too much of a leg to stand on. All three judges had 116, 112, 8 rounds to four. Different judges gave different rounds to Usyk and Fury. Um, but what were your thoughts on those scorecards, and how did you have it yourself?
Yeah, like we don't say this often in a big fight, but I think the judges more or less got it quite right. Um, I seen one of our good friends in the group this morning, the other Elliot, he made a great point and I agreed with him. Basically turned around and says that, well, if you gave a round the other way, that would have made it 115, 113, which makes it really tight. So that just basically means that a few guys have
Mm.
thought, well, that round was close. I'm going to give that to Usyk, and it's 116, 112. It just sounds that little bit more of a gap from 115, 113, but that doesn't always explain the story of a fight. You can have close rounds that a guy just wins, and I think we've seen some of those with Usyk last night. And me personally, the first time I watched it, I scored at 116, 112. I would need to go back again, Elliot, but yeah, I had it the same myself, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, no, it's completely fair. Like the only, if I was a member of Fury's team, I wouldn't be calling robbery. The only gripe I would have is that one judge from round 6 to 12 gave every round to Usyk. And that's the only thing I would say is that did Fury not win any of those rounds? I'm not sure. However, if that judge had given kind of one or maybe two of those rounds to Fury and maybe had it 114, 114, it doesn't change who wins the fight. Because I think if you look at the other two scorecards, I don't think you can complain about them too much. I don't remember the name of the judge, to be honest, but there was just one judge who, rounds 1 to 5, after round 5, had it 4-1 to Fury. And then from round 6 to round 12, had everything to 6. So he's kind of, some would say he's kind of got it wrong at both at both ends of his scorecards.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. It's over now, and I think the vast majority of people are happy with the decision. Maybe if it was a round closer, that would have been fine. But again, it doesn't mean that Fury wins the fight. If it's a round or so closer. Me and you sat down, Greg, what 2 3 weeks ago, and we spoke about how does Fury win this fight. I know you touched on him being more aggressive, and a couple other things. What other points do you look at and think Fury didn't do that, or he didn't do that well enough. When you kind of look at what happened last night.
Yeah, great question, Elliot. I'm not going to sit here and say I've got the remedy how to beat Alexander Usyk because I would be a liar. But one thing that I did pick up on, and at first I didn't think he'd done it a lot last night, and then when I watched the highlights again today, I thought, well, he did do it, but there was a mistake he made after it for me. We spoke a couple of weeks ago, like you said, and we talked about how effective the uppercut was for Fury, and he did try and throw it last night, but what I noticed through the pattern of the fight last night was, see, after he threw the uppercut, see if there was a second stage attack that came after it. I think that could have hurt Usyk. But what he was doing is he was throwing the uppercut and admiring that he'd landed it as if to say, I know that's the punch that bothers you. But if he basically then went on a two-stage attack after that, I think it could have swung some of the rounds. I think that there's that much of the fine margin. I think he had to do that, and I think he had to, for his size, have a really commanding jab, and he flicks his jab out a lot. It's like a flicky jab. Sometimes you need to put a bit of authority behind it, especially when you're the bigger man, because it makes a smaller fighter think about how they're going to get inside. So those were two things I really picked up on. No second stage attack, and he abandoned like a solid jab for me.
Yeah, now you've said that, I think you make a great point. Like the word you used was admiring, and it
Yeah,
did feel like Fury had the odd moment there where he would land a great shot, but he just kind of just kind of did that. And looking back, I wouldn't be surprised if when him and the team and analyze the fight, they they look at that and be like, what? Why didn't you follow up with what you were doing?
yeah.
So it may be a bit frustrating. Got two more questions for you, Greg. Thoughts on the weight? Thoughts on the weight slash Fury's size. To me, it I'm stating the obvious here, but Fury, he did look considerably bigger than he did back in May compared to Usyk, who obviously is really a cruiserweight. Came in at 281 pounds on the way, and we all know what happened with the clothes. What Fury actually weighed, we'll probably never know. But still considerably heavier than the first fight. Do you think he came in too heavy, basically?
You know, it's another good question, Ellie, because I watch a lot of there's a lot of people in boxing that I really admire speaking. As you know, Andy Lee is one of them. There was someone else that made a great point the other day, and they were talking about Fury. Maybe they would have liked to have seen him come in 5 or 6 pounds lighter. And I'm thinking 5 or 6 pounds, that's not really a big deal for a big heavyweight, But I'm going to backtrack and I'm going to actually say I think it could have been. I think he
Mm.
still had to come in bigger. I agree with the extra weight, but I think it slowed his feet down a little bit last night. Elliot, he was a little bit lethargic on his feet at times. And when Usyk was throwing that looping overhand left, I think that Fury struggled to get out of the way of that. So I think for me, he came in just slightly too heavy.
Yeah. I think he did. Like, I'm sure we could go into more detail because I know you followed the career of Tyson Fury for a long time, like since kind
Yeah,
of the Channel 5 days, over 2 years, over 10
yeah,
years with Mick Hennessy. And what we saw last night, I thought it was a greatly diminished Tyson Fury in regards to feet, in regards to how quick he was on his feet. And it just felt like when you compare how quick he was on his feet compared to how quick Usyk was on his feet, I just think there was just such a dramatic difference there.
yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens in 2025 for Fury. We don't know if he might actually retire here. I personally don't think he will. I think we'll see that Joshua fight, and we'll see we'll see what happens then. Maybe kind of he's got a couple of years left in him. Final question from me to you, Greg. When looking back at last night, we almost saw a stoppage back in May, didn't we? Right, the famous round 9. Did at any point did you think a stoppage was on the cards for either fighter?
I'll be honest, Elliot, no.
No.
But what an interesting point also would be if it was going to come for anyone, I think it would have been Tyson Fury for him to stop Usyk because those uppercuts again, they slightly bothered Usyk at times, not as much as the first fight, but like I say, if he followed up on them, he would have put Usyk in trouble. I don't care how good or how great you are, Elliot. If you've got a big guy of 20 stone hitting you and they hit you correctly, you're going to go over. So I did notice a few little flickers in Usyk last night when he got hit with the uppercut, but not quite the way it was in the first fight. So, like we agreed at the start of the video, fairly uneventful in terms of potential stoppage criteria, but yeah, for me, it didn't look as though it was in sight.
Yeah, yeah, no. I think I agree with you. It didn't look like it was on the cards, and I do think that maybe it will go down as a maybe a missed opportunity for Fury because I think he could have done better in both fights, but both fights it's not quite happened for him and he's lost, but at the same time, I think when you're losing to a fight like Alexander Usyk, there's nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Good to catch up with you always, Greg. We'll see what's next for Usyk. I think it looks like both Usyk and Fury are going to fight on, but obviously against different fighters. So we'll see who that is in 2025. Greg, good to be joined by you as always, and I'll speak to you again very soon.
Thanks, Elliot.